Let's jump right into this explainer because today we're looking at one of the most ambitious, breathtaking, and ultimately controversial ecological experiments in modern European history. We're going to unpack a project that started as a beautiful scientific dream and somehow spiraled into a massive national scandal. This is the story of the Dutch rewilding experiment. It's a fascinating journey that pushes the very limits of how humans and nature interact, and honestly, it matters because it sits right at the dead center of how we approach global conservation today. So, the core of our story revolves around this radical scientific concept called rewilding. The idea here was for researchers to essentially wash their hands of the ecosystem, right? Just let nature completely take the wheel. The absolute, strict rule was zero human interference. And I mean zero. No food provided by humans, no shelters built to protect these animals from the cold, and definitely no medical treatment if an animal got sick. The whole goal was to answer one massive question. If humanity steps away completely, can nature independently restore its own balance? To set the scene for you, picture 6,000 hectares of land. And here's the crazy part. Before 1968, this land literally didn't even exist. It was the bottom of the sea. The Dutch government had built these massive walls and used powerful pumps to suck the water out, reclaiming the area for a brand new industrial city. But well, economic issues hit, the city was never built, and the land was just totally abandoned. But where humanity paused, nature quietly went to work. Seeds blew into the wet, muddy soil, wild plants took root, and this vast, sprawling marshland was born. Seeing this wild new landscape emerge, a renowned Dutch ecologist named Frans Vera had a really revolutionary idea. He believed ancient Europe wasn't just dense forests, He thought it had open grasslands kept in balance by large grazing animals. So, in 1983, exactly 25 tough Polish Konik horses, picked because they're super hardy and resemble ancient wild horses, along with some specially bred heck cattle, were dropped right onto this muddy wasteland. And then, they were left completely alone. Good luck. Section 1. An ecological miracle unfolds. And honestly, for the first 20 years, the theory seemed to be working absolutely flawlessly. It was like watching a brilliant biological chain reaction. These grazing animals unintentionally became nature's engineers. As they grazed all day, they opened up the soil to direct sunlight, which let rare plants grow. When these heavy animals walked around, their hoofprints created little craters in the mud. Rainwater filled those craters, instantly making tiny habitats for frogs. Then, the animal dung acted as this powerful natural fertilizer, drawing in just countless species of insects. And of course, this sudden explosion of insects and frogs did exactly what you'd expect. It brought in flocks and flocks of birds. The transformation was nothing short of stunning. It was so incredibly successful that over 300 bird species migrated and settled there. We're talking rare ducks and migrating swans making it their permanent home. The real crown jewel, though, came in 2006, when the majestic white-tailed eagle returned, a bird that literally hadn't been seen in the Netherlands for 100 years. Documentaries were shot there, and scientists proudly started calling this self-sustaining paradise the Serengeti of Europe. But that brings us to Section 2, the hidden structural flaw. Because hiding just beneath the surface of this beautiful landscape was a ticking time bomb. The fundamental issue? The missing predators. You see, the ecosystem was completely overflowing with horses, cattle, and deer, but there were absolutely no apex predators. No wolves, cheetahs, or lions to naturally keep the population in check. In a truly wild ecosystem, predators act as that crucial balancing force. But without them here, the animals were multiplying at an explosive, unchecked rate. Just look at how fast this compounded. Without predators, those original 25 animals rapidly multiplied. Year after year, their numbers just surged, eventually exploding past 5,000. Now, during the warm summer months, everything seemed completely fine, right? The vast area produced an endless supply of lush grass, so the ecosystem could temporarily support this massive herd. But here was the fatal flaw of the entire project: its geography. These animals were fundamentally trapped in a walled prison of human infrastructure. They were bounded by a busy highway on one side and train tracks on the other. It's a bizarre paradox, really. Animals living by ancient survival instincts, but trapped behind walls while commuter trains zoomed past. In pure, untamed nature, when a population grows too big or food runs out, animals instinctively migrate to warmer climates to survive. Here, surrounded by high fences and human settlements, migration was mathematically and physically impossible.
And that structural flaw finally collided with nature's wrath, bringing us to Section 3, the Winters of Tragedy.
The dark reality of this project surfaced during two massive crises. First, a severe winter freeze in 2005 meant thousands of trapped animals starved. But the real breaking point, that happened during a historic, absolutely brutal winter in 2018. And this time, the modern world was watching. Train passengers passing right by the reserve actually filmed the dying animals through their windows, and those videos sparked an immediate, viral outrage across social media. Because the conditions on the ground were just brutal. A thick layer of ice completely buried whatever grass was left. Those 5,000+ animals burned through their food supply in a matter of days. They got so desperate they resorted to eating the bark right off the trees, which still wasn't enough. And remember that strict scientific rule of zero human interference? Well, it became a nightmare. Park rangers, bound by the strict laws of the experiment, were legally forbidden to intervene or provide hay. They could only watch as the animals collapsed and slowly starved on the ice. The results were catastrophic. In that 2018 season alone, over 3,000 animals died. They either starved to death in the freezing cold, or they were found in such a miserable, half-dead state that the rangers finally had to step in and shoot them, just to end their suffering. Section 4, the Great Ethical Clash. Unsurprisingly, these shocking visuals triggered an unprecedented national uproar in the Netherlands and created an incredibly deep, passionate ideological divide. We really have to look impartially at both sides here, because this debate gets to the very heart of how we view nature. On one hand, animal rights activists viewed this as brutal, calculated torture. They argued that trapping animals inside an inescapable cage and calling it a natural environment while they starve isn't nature at all. It's human apathy masked as science. On the exact opposite side, scientists fiercely defended the project. They argued, hey, we are not running a petting zoo. We are observing a real, working, natural ecosystem. Harsh droughts and freezing winters kill animals in the wild all the time. To them, this was simply the unfiltered reality of survival of the fittest. The weak perish so the strong can survive. But as we know, scientific arguments don't always stop human empathy. The public's patience completely boiled over, leading to a full-blown rebellion. Everyday citizens loaded up their cars with hay and threw it over the fences in blatant defiance of the law. Angry, emotional mobs actually went out in the dead of night with wire cutters, slicing open the fences to set the animals free. This led to direct physical clashes with the police, resulting in several arrests. What started as an ecological experiment escalated into a massive parliamentary political scandal. Ultimately, the government had to bow to the overwhelming public outrage. A special expert committee was formed to review the whole disaster, and their conclusion perfectly summarizes the ordeal. They stated that the basic scientific thought behind the rewilding was absolutely right. But in the modern era, it simply cannot be 100% implemented in a fenced area. You just cannot play pure, unyielding nature inside a human-made cage without expecting devastating consequences. Which leaves us with a really profound question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. As our world becomes increasingly populated and boxed in by human progress, the highways, the train tracks, the sprawling cities, can we ever truly let nature run wild? Or are we forever bound to manage the spaces we've enclosed? It's a huge dilemma we face moving forward. Thanks for exploring it with us.